Dr. Sarah walked through the empty halls of Research Station Omega 7. Her footsteps echoed in the quiet corridors. Most of the other scientists had gone to sleep hours ago, but Sarah could not rest. She had work to finish in her lab. The station floated in deep space, far from any planet. It was built to study alien life forms that came from the dark regions between stars. Sarah loved her job She spent her days learning about creatures that most humans had never seen. Tonight felt different. Sarah had received a strange signal on her equipment. Something was out there in the void and it was alive. The signal was weak, like a whisper in the darkness, but Sarah's machines could detect even the smallest signs of life. She made her way to the docking bay. The massive doors opened to reveal the endless black of space. Stars twinkled like tiny diamonds in the distance. Sarah put on her space suit and climbed into her small research ship. The signal led her to a piece of floating debris. It looked like part of a destroyed spaceship. The metal was twisted and burned. Whatever happened here was violent. Sarah used her ship's tools to scan the wreckage. Her heart stopped. There was a life sign inside the debris. It was faint but real. Something had survived whatever destroyed this ship. Sarah quickly moved her vessel closer and used the ship's arms to grab the piece of wreckage. Back in the station's medical bay, Sarah carefully cut open the twisted metal. Inside was a small chamber, barely big enough for a human child. And curled up in the corner was the strangest creature Sarah had ever seen. The being was about the size of a 10-year-old human. Its skin was like crystal, shifting between blue and purple colors. It had 2 arms and 2 legs, but they were thin and delicate. Its head was larger than a human's, with huge eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. The creature was unconscious and badly hurt. Sarah could see cuts on its crystal skin. Some of its bones looked broken, but it was alive, and that was what mattered. Sarah knew she was taking a big risk. Station rules said all alien life forms had to be reported immediately. The Galactic Council would want to study this creature. They would take it away from the station and probably put it in a cage somewhere. But looking at the small, injured being, Sarah could not bring herself to make that call. Instead, she carried the creature to her private quarters. She would heal it first and decide what to do later. For 3 days, Sarah worked to save the alien's life. She used human medicine and equipment meant for other species. Slowly, the creature began to heal. Its crystal skin started to glow softly. The cuts closed up, and its breathing became stronger. On the 4th day, the creature opened its eyes. Sarah was sitting beside the bed when it happened. The alien's eyes were unlike anything she had ever seen. They were deep purple, like the space between galaxies. When they focused on Sarah, she felt a strange warmth in her mind. The creature tried to sit up but fell back down with a soft cry of pain. Sarah quickly moved to help it, speaking in a gentle voice. "It's okay," she said. "You're safe now, I won't hurt you." The alien stared at her with wide eyes. It seemed surprised that Sarah was being kind. Most alien species in the galaxy were not known for helping others, especially creatures from different worlds. Sarah brought water and soft food. The creature ate slowly, watching Sarah's every move. After a while, it tried to speak. The sounds that came from its mouth were like music, but Sarah could not understand the words. "I wish I could understand you," Sarah said sadly. To her surprise, the creature touched its head and then pointed at Sarah. Suddenly, words appeared in Sarah's mind, but not in any language she knew. Slowly, the meaning became clear. "Thank you," the voice in her mind said. "You saved me." Sarah's eyes went wide. "You can talk to me through my thoughts." "Yes," the mental voice replied. "My people, we speak with minds, not just words. I am called." "I'm Sarah," she said out loud. "What happened to you? Where did you come from?" Crystal skin turned dark blue, a color Sarah would later learn meant great sadness. "My people were called explained through their mental link. We lived on a beautiful world among the stars, but the hegemony empire found us. They wanted us to use our mind powers to fight their wars. Sarah had heard of the hegemony. They were a powerful group that controlled much of the galaxy through force and fear. When we refused, continued, they destroyed our world. They said we were too dangerous to live free. I was on a small ship with my family when it happened. The ship was attacked. I think I am the only one left. Sarah felt tears in her eyes. She reached out and gently touched his hand. The crystal skin was warm and smooth. I'm so sorry, Sarah whispered. You don't have to be alone anymore. Over the following weeks, Sarah and grew closer. Sarah taught how to speak human languages, learned quickly, her mind able to understand new concepts faster than any human child. In return, shared stories of her people. They were peaceful and wise. They used their mental powers to help others, not to harm them. They could heal minds that were broken and bring peace to those who suffered. Sarah knew she was breaking many rules by hiding, but looking at her new friend, she could not bring herself to care. Was not a specimen to be studied. She was a person who had lost everything and needed someone to care about her. Every day, Sarah worried that someone would discover their secret. The station had security cameras and regular inspections, but Sarah was clever. She changed the computer records and found ways to hide when others were around. Late at night, they would sit together and talk, would tell Sarah about the stars and the worlds her people had known. Sarah would share human stories and show pictures of Earth. "Why do you help me?" asked one evening. "Your people barely know mine existed. You get nothing from protecting me." Sarah smiled and brushed a strand of hair from his face. "Because it's the right thing to do, and because you're not just some alien to me anymore. You're family." Skin glowed bright gold, a color Sarah had learned meant pure happiness. In that moment, both of them knew their bond was something special. It was the beginning of a friendship that would change both their lives forever. 6 months passed like a wonderful dream. Sarah and Had created their own little world inside the research station. Every day brought new discoveries and deeper friendship. Had grown stronger under Sarah's care. Her crystal skin now glowed with health, shifting through beautiful colors as her emotions changed. She had learned to speak perfect English and could even understand some of the other human languages used on the station. Sarah's work had improved dramatically too, though nobody else knew why. His unique perspective helped Sarah understand alien biology in ways no human had before. When Sarah studied tissue samples from other worlds, could sense things that human instruments missed. "This creature was afraid when it died," would say, touching a sample with her finger. "It was far from its home." These insights helped Sarah write research papers that amazed her colleagues, but she never took credit for his help. The papers were published under Sarah's name alone. In the evenings, Sarah would teach about human culture. They watched movies together on Sarah's computer, loved stories about families and friendship. She was fascinated by the idea that humans chose to care for people who were not related to them by blood. "On my world, families were connected by mind links," explained one night. "We felt what our relatives felt, but you humans choose to love people just because you want to. That seems much more special." Sarah smiled as she brushed silvery hair. Family isn't always about blood or mental connections. Sometimes it's just about choosing to care for someone. "Like you chose me?" asked, her skin turning warm pink. "Like I chose you," Sarah confirmed. During the days, Sarah had to be careful. Other scientists worked on the station, and any one of them could discover. Sarah had created a hidden room behind her quarters where could stay safe during busy periods. The hardest part was the monthly inspections. Security officers would search every room on the station. Sarah had to use all her scientific knowledge to fool their equipment. She created false readings and hid in places where the scanners could not detect life signs. Hated hiding, but she understood the danger. If the wrong people found her, she would be taken away from Sarah forever. The hegemony empire was still hunting for any surviving. One day, while Sarah was in her lab, made a discovery that changed everything. She was practicing her mental abilities when she felt something strange. There were minds nearby, but they were different from human minds. Sarah's voice whispered in her thoughts, "There are aliens on the station. They are trying to hide, but I can feel them." Sarah's blood went cold. She quickly left her lab and hurried to their quarters, was standing by the window, her skin dark with worry. "How many?" Sarah asked. "3, maybe 4. They are moving through the station quietly. They feel dangerous." Sarah knew what this meant. Somehow, the hegemony had tracked them down. Maybe mental abilities had been detected. Maybe someone had reported seeing strange things on the station. "We have to run," Sarah said, moving quickly to pack their few belongings. But shook her head. "I am tired of running, Sarah. I have been hiding my whole life, first from the hegemony, then here on your station. I want to stop being afraid." "You don't understand. If they catch us—" "I understand perfectly," interrupted. Her skin was turning bright silver, a color Sarah had never seen before. "But I am not the same scared child you found in that wreckage. You taught me that family means standing together. I will not run anymore." Before Sarah could argue, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red in the corridors. Over the communication system, a cold voice spoke in the universal galactic language. "This is Commander of the Hegemony Fleet. We are conducting a search for illegal alien refugees. All station personnel will remain in their quarters until the search is complete." Sarah felt her heart pounding. She grabbed his hand. "Please, we can still escape. I have a ship in the docking bay." "And go where?" asked calmly. "They will follow us wherever we go. At least here we face them together." Heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway outside their door. Sarah could hear the whirring sounds of alien weapons and scanning equipment. The hegemony soldiers were searching every room methodically. Squeezed Sarah's hand. "Thank you for giving me 6 months of happiness. That is more than most of my people ever had." "Don't talk like this is over," Sarah said firmly. "I promised to protect you and I keep my promises." The door to their quarters exploded inward. 3 massive alien soldiers entered, their weapons ready. They wore the black armor of hegemony shock troops. Behind them came a tall, thin alien with pale skin and cold eyes. "Energy signature detected," the pale alien said, consulting a handheld device. "The reading is very strong. She is here." The soldiers spread out, their scanners beeping as they searched the room. It took them only minutes to find the hidden chamber where usually hid. When they could not find her there, they turned back to the main room. "Show yourself," the pale alien commanded. "We know you are here." Stepped out from behind Sarah, her chin held high. Her crystal skin was glowing bright silver, and her eyes were filled with determination instead of fear. "I am here," she said in the universal language, "but I am under the protection of Sarah of Earth." The soldiers laughed at this statement. The pale alien looked at Sarah with amusement. "Human," he said, "you have committed serious crimes by harboring this fugitive, but you will face only minor punishment if you cooperate now. Step aside." "No," Sarah said simply. The alien's expression changed to one of annoyance. "You do not understand the situation. This belongs to the Empire. She will serve our purposes whether she wants to or not." "She belongs to no one," Sarah replied, moving to stand directly in front of. "She is a free being and she is under my protection." "Your protection?" The alien laughed harder now. "You are nothing but a human scientist. What protection could you possibly offer against the might of the hegemony?" Sarah did not answer with words. Instead, she reached behind her and took his hand. At that moment, something amazing happened. His mental abilities, strengthened by months of peace and happiness, reached out and touched Sarah's mind. For the first time, Sarah felt what felt. She experienced the deep connection that's shared with those they loved, but more than that, shared her own strength with Sarah. The human woman suddenly felt braver and stronger than ever before. "I may be just a human," Sarah said, her voice now filled with power, "but I am her human, and that makes me more dangerous than you can imagine." The pale alien stopped laughing. Something in Sarah's tone made him uncertain. He gestured to his soldiers. "Take them both. The Queen will want to see this for herself." As the soldiers moved forward, Sarah and stood together, hand in hand. Neither of them knew what would happen next, but they knew they would face it as family. And sometimes, that is the strongest power in the universe. The Hegemony ship was the largest vessel Sarah had ever seen. Its dark metal hull stretched for miles in every direction. Inside, the corridors were cold and empty, designed to make prisoners feel small and afraid. Sarah and were kept in a holding cell deep inside the ship. The walls were made of energy fields that would shock anyone who tried to touch them. Guards stood outside their door at all times. For 3 days, they traveled through space toward the Hegemony capital world. Sarah tried to stay strong but inside she was terrified. She had heard stories about what happened to people who opposed the Empire. Most were never seen again. Seemed calmer than Sarah expected. Her crystal skin stayed a steady blue color, which Sarah had learned meant she was thinking deeply. "Are you afraid?" Sarah asked on their second day in the cell. "Yes," admitted, "but not of dying. I am afraid they will separate us. I could not bear to lose you after finding what family means." Sarah squeezed his hand. "That won't happen, I promise." "How can you promise such a thing?" asked. "We are prisoners of the most powerful empire in the galaxy." "Because," Sarah said firmly, "they don't understand what they're dealing with. They think you're just a weapon they can use. They think I'm just a weak human. They have no idea what we really are." "What are we?" asked. "We're family," Sarah said, "and family doesn't give up on each other, ever." On the third day, guards came to take them to see the Queen. Sarah and were put in chains and led through endless hallways. Other prisoners watched them pass with empty, hopeless eyes. The throne room was enormous. The ceiling was so high that Sarah could barely see it. Alien nobles from dozens of different species filled the space. They all wore expensive clothes and jewels, but their eyes were cold and cruel. At the far end of the room sat the throne. It was carved from a single piece of black stone and covered with the bones of defeated enemies. And on that throne sat Queen Ra herself. Sarah had seen pictures of the Queen, but seeing her in person was terrifying. Ra was 12 feet tall with skin like black armor. Her eyes burned like amber fire, and her teeth were sharp as knives. She had ruled the hegemony for over 300 years, and her cruelty was legendary throughout the galaxy. The Queen studied them as they were forced to walk across the huge room. Her gaze lingered on with obvious interest. When they finally reached the base of the throne, the guards forced them to their knees. "So," Queen Ra said, her voice echoing through the chamber, "this is the last. I was beginning to think my soldiers had killed them all." She leaned forward, focusing on, "You are smaller than I expected, and younger. Tell me, little one, how did you survive when all your people perished?" Lifted her chin and met the Queen's burning gaze. "I was rescued." "Rescued?" The Queen laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "By whom? What great warrior or powerful lord took pity on a weak child?" The entire court waited for answer. The alien nobles whispered among themselves, wondering which hidden faction had dared to oppose the hegemony. Some guessed it might be the Rebel Alliance. Others thought perhaps the Free World's coalition had been involved. Queen Ra smiled cruelly. "Come now, speak up. Who is your protector? Who is your guardian in this hostile galaxy?" Turned to look at Sarah. For a moment, they shared a mental connection, and Sarah felt love and gratitude flowing through their bond, then turned back to face the Queen. "My human," she said clearly. The words rang through the throne room like a bell. For a moment, there was complete silence. Then the court erupted in laughter. Alien nobles pointed at Sarah and made jokes in their various languages. The idea that a human could protect anything was hilarious to them. Queen Ra did not laugh. She stared at Sarah with new interest, her eyes narrowing. "This human," she asked, her voice dangerous. "This small, soft creature from a barely civilized world, you claim that she is your guardian." "Yes," said proudly. "She saved my life. She healed my wounds. She gave me a home and a family. She protected me for 6 months from your hunters. She is my guardian, and I am proud to be under her protection." The queen rose from her throne and walked down the steps. Even her movement was terrifying, like watching a giant predator approach. She stopped in front of Sarah and looked down at her. "Look at me, human," the queen commanded. Sarah raised her head and met the queen's blazing eyes. She was more afraid than she had ever been in her life, but she did not look away. "What is your name?" the queen asked. "Dr. Sarah," Sarah replied, her voice steady despite her fear. "And you believe you can protect this from the power of my empire?" "I already have," Sarah said simply. Queen Ra's eyes flashed with anger. Several nobles gasped at Sarah's boldness. No one spoke to the queen like that and lived. "You hid her like a coward," the queen snarled. "That is not protection. That is merely postponing the inevitable." "I kept her safe," Sarah replied. "I gave her time to heal and grow strong. I showed her that she was not alone in the universe. If that is cowardice, then I am proud to be a coward." The queen circled around Sarah and like a predator studying prey. "You humans are so strange. Most species understand that the strong rule the weak, but you seem to think that weakness can somehow become strength through sentiment and emotion." "I don't think weakness becomes strength," Sarah said. "I think you don't understand what real strength is." This statement caused another gasp from the court. The queen stopped walking and turned to face Sarah directly. "Enlighten me, human. What is real strength?" Sarah looked at, then back at the queen. "Real strength is choosing to protect someone even when it costs you everything. Real strength is love that doesn't count the price. You rule through fear, your majesty, but fear always breaks in the end. Love doesn't." Queen Ra was quiet for a long moment. The entire court held its breath, waiting to see how she would react to such defiance. Finally, the queen began to laugh, but this laugh was different from before. It was not cruel or mocking. It was the laugh of someone who has heard something truly surprising. "Fascinating," she said. "You actually believe what you are saying. Most prisoners try to flatter me or beg for mercy, but you lecture me about the nature of strength." She returned to her throne and sat down, studying Sarah and with new eyes. "Very well, Dr. Sarah. You claim to be this guardian. You say that your human love is stronger than my hegemony's fear. I will give you a chance to prove it." The queen gestured to her guards. "Prepare the arena. Tomorrow this human will have the opportunity to demonstrate her guardianship. If she succeeds, both she and the will be freed. If she fails—" The queen's smile was terrifying. "Well, the will learn what it means to serve the empire properly." As the guards led them away, Sarah felt small hands slip into hers. Whatever tomorrow brought, they would face it together. And in that moment, Sarah realized something important. She was no longer afraid. The queen had made one crucial mistake. She thought this was about Sarah proving herself. But Sarah already knew who she was. She was Guardian's family protector. And tomorrow, the entire galaxy would learn what that really meant. The arena was a massive circular space carved from black stone. Thousands of alien spectators filled the seats above, eager to watch the entertainment. The queen sat in a special viewing box, her amber eyes focused on the arena floor. Sarah stood in the center of the space, wearing simple gray clothes. The arena masters had given her no weapons, no armor, nothing but her own knowledge and determination. Around her waist was a chain that connected her two, ensuring they could not be separated during the trial. Stayed close to Sarah's side. Her crystal skin was pale with worry, but her eyes were fierce. She would not let her guardian face this alone. Citizens of the Empire, Queen Ra's voice boomed through the arena. Today we witness a rare sight. A human claims to be the guardian of our prize. She will now prove whether her species' famous sentiment is stronger than our empire's strength. The crowd roared with excitement. Most had never seen a human before, and they were eager to watch one fail. The rules are simple, the queen continued. The human must protect the from my hunters for 1 full hour. If thee is captured or harmed, both will become property of the empire. If they survive, they earn their freedom. Gates opened around the arena. Sarah counted them quickly, 12 in total. Whatever was coming would attack from all sides. The first hunter that emerged made Sarah's heart sink. It was a warrior, standing 8 feet tall with 4 arms and natural armor plates. Were bred for war, and had never lost a single combat in recorded history. But that was just the beginning. More hunters poured from the other gates. Sarah saw an assassin with poisoned claws, a robotic war machine from the synthetic worlds, and several other creatures she did not recognize. All of them were designed for one purpose: to kill. The crowd cheered as the hunters spread out around the arena floor. Sarah turned in a slow circle, trying to keep all their enemies in sight. Remember, Sarah whispered too, stay behind me no matter what happens. Sarah replied through their mental link, I can help, my people's abilities. No, Sarah said firmly. They want to capture you so they can use your powers for war. I won't let that happen, even if it means we both die here. The queen raised her hand. Let the test begin. The hunters attacked all at once. The warrior charged straight at Sarah, its 4 arms reaching out to grab both her end. Sarah waited until the last second, then dropped to the ground and rolled sideways. The warrior's momentum carried it past them. But there was no time to rest. The assassin leaped through the air, its poison claws aimed its neck. Sarah grabbed a handful of arena sand and threw it into the creature's eyes. It missed its strike and landed hard on the stone floor. The robotic hunter fired energy blasts from its arm cannons. Sarah pushed behind a large stone pillar and used it for cover. The blasts chipped away pieces of stone, but the pillar held. For the first 10 minutes, Sarah relied on speed and cleverness. She had studied alien biology for years, and that knowledge helped her now. She knew this armor had weak spots at the joints. She knew this poison claws needed time to reload between strikes. She knew the robot's sensors could be confused by bright lights. But Sarah was only human. She was not as strong as the or as fast as the. Slowly, the hunters began to wear her down. A blow from the warrior's fist sent her flying across the arena floor. Poison from the assassin's claws scratched her arm, making her feel dizzy and weak. The crowd was going wild. They had expected the human to die quickly, but she was putting up a surprising fight. Even Queen Ra was leaning forward in her seat, watching with intense interest. 20 minutes passed. Sarah was bleeding from several wounds and breathing hard. The chain around her waist was getting heavier as exhaustion set in, but she kept moving, kept protecting from every attack. I can't let them take you, Sarah gasped as she pulled away from another energy blast. You're hurt, said, tears in her large eyes. Please let me help. I can use my abilities to. No, Sarah said again, even though she was barely standing. You're not a weapon, you're my family. That was when something unexpected happened. As Sarah spoke those words, felt something break free inside her mind. All her life, she had been told that her people's psychic abilities were dangerous. The hegemony wanted to use them for war. Even her own people had been careful with their mental powers, afraid of what they might do. But Sarah's love was pure and selfless. There was no fear in it, no desire to use for gain. and that pure love acted like a key, unlocking abilities never knew she possessed. Instead of attacking the hunters, reached out with her mind and touched Sarah's spirit. She began to share her own life force with her guardian, healing Sarah's wounds and giving her new strength. Sarah felt the change immediately. The poison in her system disappeared. Her cuts stopped bleeding. Her tired muscles filled with new energy. But more than that, she could suddenly sense exactly where each hunter was, even when they were behind her. The connection between them had become something neither human nor had experienced before. They were still two separate beings, but they moved as one. When the warrior attacked, Sarah knew exactly where it would strike before it moved. When the assassin tried to circle around them, Sarah was already turning to meet it. The crowd fell silent as they watched Sarah fight with impossible skill. She dodged attacks that should have been too fast to see. She struck back at precisely the right moments to disable her enemies without killing them. But it was what happened next that truly shocked everyone. One of the hunters managed to get past Sarah's defenses. A new creature had joined the fight, something with tentacles that moved like lightning. One tentacle wrapped around Sarah's leg and began to drag her away from. For the first time since the battle began, was in direct danger. Something primal awakened in Sarah's mind. Every human instinct to protect her family surged forward. Combined with mental abilities, this created a force that none of the hunters had expected. Sarah grabbed the tentacle with both hands and pulled with strength that should have been impossible for her small frame. The creature holding her let out a shriek of pain as she tore its appendage away from her leg. "Nobody touches my daughter," Sarah snarled. The word daughter rang through the arena like thunder. Sarah had never called that before, but in that moment it was the only word that fit. Crystal skin blazed with golden light. The love she felt from Sarah was so pure and powerful that it amplified her own abilities beyond anything her people had ever achieved. But instead of using that power to attack, she used it to shield. A dome of protective energy surrounded both of them. The hunters' weapons could not penetrate it. Their claws and blasts simply bounced off the barrier of love and determination that had created. Queen Ra stood up in her viewing box, her eyes wide with amazement. In 300 years of rule, she had never seen anything like this. The human and were not just working together, they had become something greater than either could be alone. The hour was almost over. The hunters, exhausted and frustrated, made one final coordinated attack. All of them rushed forward at once, hopping to overwhelm the protective barrier. But Sarah and were ready. They stood back to back in the center of their energy dome. Sarah's scientific knowledge combined with psychic abilities to create a perfect defense. Every attack was turned away. Every strategy was anticipated and countered. When the horn sounded to mark the end of the hour, Sarah and were still standing. Around them, the Empire's greatest hunters lay defeated or exhausted on the arena floor. The crowd was completely silent. This was not supposed to be possible. Queen Ra slowly walked down to the arena floor. She approached the energy dome, which faded away as released her hold on it. "Remarkable," the queen said quietly. "In all my years of conquest, I have never seen true guardianship. I have seen soldiers follow orders. I have seen slaves obey from fear. But I have never seen someone fight like that for another being." She looked directly at Sarah. "You were willing to die for her." "Of course," Sarah replied, still holding protectively. "That's what family does." The queen was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice carried a note that had never been heard in the Empire before: respect. "You have won, Dr. Sarah. But more than that, you have taught me something I thought was impossible to learn. Tomorrow, we will discuss what this means for my empire." Sarah woke up in a room unlike any prison cell she had ever seen. The walls were made of smooth white stone, and soft light came from hidden sources. A large window showed the stars passing by outside. Most surprising of all, there were no bars, no energy fields, no guards at the door. Was sleeping peacefully in a bed beside hers. The little crystal skin glowed softly with contentment. After the arena battle, both of them had collapsed from exhaustion. Sarah had no idea how long they had been unconscious. A soft sound made Sarah turn her head. Queen Ra stood in the doorway. Without her armor and royal robes, she looked smaller and somehow less frightening. She wore simple gray clothing similar to what Sarah had been given. "You are awake," the queen said quietly. "Good, we need to talk." Sarah sat up carefully, making sure not to wake. "Have you come to finish what your hunters could not?" The queen shook her head. "No, I have come to understand what I witnessed yesterday." She walked to the window and looked out at the stars. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "Tell me about your species," the queen finally said. "In all my years of conquest, I have never seen humans fight the way you fought. Most races battle for territory, resources, or survival, but you fought for something else entirely." "I fought for my daughter," Sarah said simply. "She is not your biological offspring," the queen pointed out. "She is not even the same species. By all galactic standards, there is no logical reason for you to risk your life for hers." Sarah stood and walked to stand beside the queen at the window. "Logic doesn't have much to do with love, your majesty. When I found she was hurt and alone, she needed someone to care for her. I chose to be that someone." "Chose," the queen repeated. "That is the word I keep returning to. In my empire, loyalty is created through fear or necessity, but you chose to protect her without any benefit to yourself." "The benefit is seeing her happy and safe," Sarah replied. "That's worth more than anything your empire could offer me." The queen turned to study Sarah's face. "My people have a saying, 'The strong devour the weak, and the weak serve the strong.' It has been the foundation of our society for thousands of years, but watching you fight has made me question that wisdom." "Why?" Sarah asked. "Because you were clearly the weaker being in that arena," the queen explained. "Every hunter was larger, stronger, and more heavily armed than you. By our laws, you should have been devoured instantly. But instead, your weakness somehow became strength. Your willingness to sacrifice became power. I do not understand how this is possible." Stirred in her sleep, making a soft sound. Both Sarah and the queen looked at her with gentle expressions. "Would you like to know a secret?" Sarah asked quietly. "She makes me stronger too. Every day I spend with her, I become a better person. Her innocence reminds me what's worth protecting. Her joy reminds me what's worth living for. That's how real love works. It makes both people stronger." The queen was silent for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was thoughtful. "I have ruled an empire of 10,000 worlds for 3 centuries, she said. "I have commanded armies that could destroy entire solar systems. I have been feared by every species in this part of the galaxy, but I have never had what you have with that small." "What do you think I have?" Sarah asked. "Someone who would fight for you the way you fought for her," the queen replied sadly. "Someone who loves you not for your power or your usefulness, but simply because you exist." Sarah felt a sudden understanding. "You're lonely." The queen's eyes flashed with anger for a moment, but then the emotion faded. "Lonely is not a word that applies to queens. We have subjects, advisors, armies at our command." "But no family," Sarah said gently. "No one who cares about you just because of who you are." "I am a conqueror," the queen said bitterly. "I take what I want and destroy what resists me. What kind of family could someone like me ever have?" "The kind that chooses to love you anyway," Sarah answered. "That's what I learned. Family isn't about being perfect. It's about choosing to care for someone even when they're difficult or different." Opened her eyes and sat up in bed. Her crystal skin turned warm gold when she saw Sarah was safe. Then she noticed the queen and her colors shifted to cautious blue. "It's all right," Sarah said quickly. "We're just talking." Climbed out of bed and walked to stand beside Sarah. The queen looked down at the small alien with new eyes. "Little one," the queen said, "yesterday you called this human your guardian, but I saw something else in that arena. She called you her daughter." Skin blazed with happiness. "Yes, we are family now." "How?" the queen asked. "How do two beings from different worlds, different species, become family?" "We chose each other," explained. "When I was hurt and scared, Sarah took care of me. When she was in danger, I helped her fight. We decided that we belonged together." The queen knelt down so she could look directly into his large purple eyes. "And if I asked you to use your mental abilities to serve my empire, what would you say?" Did not hesitate. "I would say no. My powers are not for hurting others. Sarah taught me that I can choose how to use my gifts, even if I threaten to harm your guardian." Skin turned silver with determination. "If you hurt my family, I would stop you. Not because I am angry, but because protecting the people we love is what makes us strong." The queen stood up slowly. Something in her expression had changed completely. "You are both free to go," she announced. "My ship will take you anywhere you wish to travel." Sarah was stunned, just like that. "Not just like that," the queen said. "I want to ask something of you first. Will you stay and help me learn what you have taught me?" "What do you mean?" Sarah asked. The queen gestured toward the window, where they could see the vast empire fleet stretched across space. "I have spent centuries ruling through fear and power, but watching you two has shown me there might be another way. Will you help me discover what it means to lead through love instead of conquest?" Sarah and looked at each other. Through their mental connection, they shared a conversation that lasted only seconds but covered everything important. "We'll help," Sarah said finally, "but on one condition." "Name it," the queen replied. "No more hunting or any other peaceful species. No more forcing people to fight wars they don't believe in. If we're going to teach you about love, you have to stop creating so much hate." The queen smiled, the first genuine smile of her long life. "Agreed. Though I warn you, changing an empire is much harder than winning arena battles." "Maybe," Sarah said, taking his hand. "But we've learned that the hardest things are usually the most worthwhile." Over the following months, word spread throughout the galaxy of the changes in the hegemony empire. Queen Ra issued new laws protecting smaller species. She created the Guardian Protocol, a galactic treaty recognizing the right of beings to form chosen families across species lines. Sarah and became ambassadors of this new way of thinking. They traveled to worlds throughout the empire, sharing their story and helping others understand that strength could come from protection rather than domination. Wherever they went, beings who had lived in fear began to hope again. Families separated by war were reunited. Species that had been enemies for generations began to speak of peace. And in quiet moments between their diplomatic missions, Sarah and would sit together and remember the day their lives changed forever. "Do you ever regret it?" Sarah asked one evening as they watched the sunset on a beautiful alien world. "Regret what?" replied, her skin glowing contentment. "Choosing me instead of hiding. Your life would have been much simpler if you had never revealed yourself." Smiled and took Sarah's hand. "Simpler, maybe, but not better. Besides, you taught me the most important truth in the universe." "What's that?" Sarah asked. "Family isn't something you're born into," said, her crystal skin blazing with joy. "It's something you choose to create, and I choose you every day for the rest of my life." Sarah squeezed her daughter's hand and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Queen Ra was learning to rule with love instead of fear. Somewhere out there, other lost beings were finding their own chosen families. And here on this peaceful world, a human scientist and a young sat together and proved that sometimes the smallest acts of love can change an entire galaxy. When beings across the stars asked who protected her, she would always give the same answer with pride in her voice: "My human." And that makes her the most powerful guardian in the universe.